My goal and what I want is healing for my people. We've got to have mental healing. We need physical healing, emotional and spiritual, but we have to start with the mental. The thought processes. Me and a young lady was just having a conversation. And when I say young lady, she's 25 years old. And she was talking about she's dating a guy that it's friends with benefits. In this conversation, she's saying, I realize I do want a relationship, but I just don't want the foolishness. So she's dating this guy because they only see each other once every 2 weeks or whatever. She was like, so I don't get too attached. You cannot share your body with someone over and over and over and not become attached. You can fool yourself into thinking you won't. And I'm going to say for women, I'm not going to speak on men because men think very differently from women. So I'm not a man, don't know how a man think. I could tell you what men have told me. I could tell you what my dad has told me, guys I've known, but I'm not a man. So I can't speak on them. I am a woman. I can't speak for every woman. But if we be honest with ourselves, we've got to know we can't just keep sleeping with people and think that, oh, there's going to be no attachment. If you understand biology, you'll understand, yeah, you will. Your energy, your emotions, your protons, your electrons, your neutrons, all of that will transfer to the other person. Just like if you set a gold ring next to a silver ring, the properties from one begin to transfer to the property of the other and back to the other way. Try it. Just set a gold ring and a silver ring next to each other. Don't touch it. Don't do nothing. And watch. In time, you will see the gold ring will start to turn silver and the silver ring will start to turn gold. This is what happens with humans. So when you are sleeping with someone, this is what happens. Their emotions, their generational trauma, their belief system, everything starts to transfer to you and everything of yours starts to transfer to them. We need to start being honest with ourselves and learn how to be alone. And this is the conversation me and this young lady was having. I was like, you setting yourself up for failure. And she, in the end, she was kind of like, yeah, I know. Because, I really like him because he's a nice guy. I like his qualities. He may have some beautiful qualities. Just because someone has good qualities don't mean they don't have bad qualities. Or don't mean they're not messed up in the head. Because if you're sleeping with someone that's friends with benefits, he might have good qualities, but that's not one of them. We need to recognize this and stop trying to pretend. This is the world that we have grown into. Pretend. And I know a lot of people, I'm a very blunt person. I'm from New York. That's the New York in me. I grew up in a society where we were very blunt with each other. We didn't pull no punches. If you're my friend, I'm like, nah, bitch. Nah, bitch, you're wrong. It may not be nice, but I got your best interests at heart. I'm not telling you something and being blunt with you because I'm trying to be mean to you. I'm trying to be a bitch to you. No, you need to hear this. You need to hear it harsh. Because sometimes people can't hear it unless they get the gut punch. We've got to stop this pretend. Oh my God. Oh God, there's so much healing that needs to be done. And I'm not sitting on a high horse and saying, I got my shit together. I'm going through a divorce. But I recognize my brokenness was attracted to his brokenness. I'm recognizing this. I'm recognizing that because I was going through an illness, I had no business getting in a relationship with somebody. I'm not thinking clearly. My mind is all over the place. Another thing we talked about is I married my father. My father was Mr. Romance. My soon-to-be ex-husband, Mr. Romance. My father had them old school values. My soon-to-be ex-husband had them old school values. My father will love you, take care of you, and be there for you. My soon-to-be ex-husband loved me. He was there for me. He took care of me. But when I looked at my father, he was never faithful to a woman. No matter how much he did for them, he was never faithful. This woman that raised me and my sister, practically, she was always in the picture. Apparently, even when him and my mother was together. Because my mother was gone 6 months. So I don't remember back then. And this woman was always in the picture. She lived upstairs from us. My mother knew her. When my mother left, she just stepped right on in. During the time when she met my dad, when her and my dad were dealing with each other, she was on her second marriage. Throughout the years, my dad was married 3 times. Throughout the years, she was married 4 times. But throughout the years, they were always in each other's lives. That's not healthy. That's not good. That's not the way relationships work. She told me some years ago after my dad died, she was crying and she was like, my biggest regret is never marrying your father. And in this conversation, I'm like, do you think that y'all would have stayed together? I mean, I just look back at all of this. I remember Thanksgiving when my youngest daughter was 3. She is now 23. We all showed up at my sister's house. My dad had my kids. I was away in the military. So when we all showed up at my sister's house, he showed up with my kids and this woman. He was married to his 3rd wife. And I remember me and my sister were like, what the? But we like, you know what? I'm sorry. My phone was ringing, but me and my sister were kind of looking at each other like, what the frick, man? So, I mean, but we had a endearing to this woman because she raised us. She was there. But honestly, had both of us been in our right minds, I would have took my kids and left and said, nah, I'm not going to be a part of this. Because here comes Christmas. The next month, his wife comes. So, of course, my 3-year-old's like, hey, grandma, da-da-da-da-da. Guess what such and such gave me, blah, 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 blah. And at that moment, I grabbed my keys, I grabbed my purse, and I walked out of my dad's house. Because I was like, I'm not in this. It's always been, I know my dad is foul, but I ain't going to rat him out. You know, I'm not going to get in this. And then we had a conversation later where he was like, well, you need to tell your daughter she need to keep up. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I had to shut him down. She's 3. Come on now. She's doing what a 3-year-old does. You can't do foul stuff in front of kids and think they're not going to tell. Period. period. But I'm saying this to say, I married my father for some strange reason, and I didn't even realize I had this thought process. When I moved down here, spending so much time with myself, I sat there one day and I was like, why am I feeling so insecure with my husband? I've never felt insecure in my life. I've always felt secure in everything I did. The reason why I was feeling insecure because I knew that shit wasn't right. I also began to realize that in my head, I was thinking, can't nobody love me like my dad? Hence goes, I married my father. But my dad was fucked up. And I'm not saying he was a bad guy. He just was fucked up. He was a great father, but a horrible husband, a horrible boyfriend. You know, because whatever he didn't deal with in his life, I don't know. So, in thinking that, like, why do I think no one would love me like my dad did? And maybe because growing up, that's who was there, my dad. Couldn't nobody do nothing to us. Couldn't nobody. So it was like it was built into me. My dad got my back. Ain't nobody went as hard for me like my dad did. And that's why I was thinking, you know, can't nobody love me like my dad. But so I married my dad. But I should have known, although my dad was a good father, he was a horrible husband, horrible boyfriend. My ex-husband, he was a good dad. But he was a horrible boyfriend, which in turn made him a bad father, or even like my dad. Because I remember going on dates with my dad. I remember going, you know, you with this woman today, this week we going on a date with this woman, and then we going back to the woman who was raising us. He was a good father in some ways, but emotionally he was not a good father. He was, because he was exposing us and normalizing this type of behavior with us. And it was normalized with me. And I know there's been a conversation that I've had with people about my mother because she left. And everybody's like, oh, you're hurting because... No, I'm not. Growing up, when your parent was never there, you never have the feeling of, I miss my mom or I miss my dad. Because you can't miss what you never had. Now, what I did have was, what the hell is she? As a young child, I was always like, a sane, rational woman would never leave their children. I don't know what happened, so I'm going to put a question mark in it and file it away. But my normal has always been me, my sister, my dad. So I just never really thought of it until I got to junior high school. You're getting more aware when you're getting older. Your friends are becoming more aware. And I remember them starting to say, how come you don't talk about your dad? And that's when I was like, well, that's because he's there. My mom's, I don't know my mom. And I understand for most people, they were like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know my mom. What do you mean? I mean, it was just like a never-ending thing. And I'm like, then that's when I started thinking about it more. Like, but also during this time, my mom popped up. She called my aunt, my dad. Now, when I talk about my family, I'm talking about my dad's family. That's the only family I knew. My mom's family is from Trinidad. They were in the islands, didn't know them, had no contact with them. When we left Trinidad when I was 2, no more contact because my parents split up. We went over there when I was 6 months. My parents were back in the States trying to work on their marriage. It didn't work. They split up. So I lost all contact with them. So she contacted my aunt. My aunt's like, guess who I just got off the phone with? We're like, she's like, your mom. We're like, oh. So at this point, I'm like, I need to know what happened. I'm not passing no judgment. I need to know what happened. Because my dad was always, we'll sit down and talk about it one day. Later on, it was like he finally said what I had nothing nice to say, so I just said nothing. And I respect that. He never trashed my mom, ever. Well, my mom was lost in a cult. For those of you who are older and also live in the Northeast, you might remember Hare Krishnas. That's the cult she was lost in. So I had to go because I was like, I need to find out what happened. My cousin, who was 10 years older than me, went with me. That's the only reason why my dad let me go. She was a Jehovah's Witness, so she's also coming from a different background. We go to this compound, and immediately I saw what was wrong. As we walked in the door, all the people were like, hi, you must be Inez's daughter. And I'm like, oh, shoot, what the hell? They put me in the kitchen. I'm 13, so I'm going to do what I'm told. Chopping up vegetables, they grow their own food. They're playing all this music, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare. Incense is burning, tambourines are going. And I'm just like, you know. So at some point, I didn't never notice nothing on the counter. The counter kind of opened up and some wheels came up. And the platter that all the food was on, they slid it back and a wall shut down. They went to chanting and dancing the tambourines, and I'm sitting here like, what the hell going on behind this wall? For 9 days that I was there, I starved myself. I could not bring myself to eat because of seeing the way the people appeared to be on drugs. I'm like, nah, y'all not gonna fool me with the okie doke. Every morning at 3:30, they would get up and they would worship the deities. It's these statues. You go into this big room. Krishna sat there, a statue. These deities was in these notches in the wall. Light coming from the room is dark, but the light is coming from behind these statues. The lights are flashing. These ladies are walking belly dances. Ching, 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 ching. You know, and music is playing, and they chanting, and Hare Hare Krishna Krishna, and the music playing. They're adorning these deities with gold, and diamonds, and jewels, and rubies, and sapphires, and lace like you have never seen before. It's like, ah. And I'm like, what the hell? So me and my cousin, we're kind of backing up to the wall, and we're squeezing each other's hands. I mean, to the point we was almost breaking each other's hands. And we found ourselves tapping to the beat, and we like, and we looked at each other, was like, no, 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 no. So at that moment, my mom turned around. And she looked at me, she's like, she took me outside in the hallway. Now, my mom's from Trinidad. This was my deciding moment when I recognized what was going on. And it just explained everything for me. She goes, Mawusi, what is wrong? You know I will never do anything to hurt you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm 13. And she's like, I will never do anything to hurt you. Intentionally. And I was like, whoa, 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 that pause. And then intentionally, at that moment, I was like, wow, wow, I was right. A sane and rational woman would never leave her children. In that moment, I realized she's not sane and she's not rational. Now, from that moment, I was like, this shit sucks. Why I gotta get the crazy mom? Why I gotta get the mom that's lost in religion, her brain is done? But also, I looked at it like, but my dad got me. My dad got me. He never left our side. Full circle, back around. Nobody would ever love me like my dad. I was right. Because no one has ever loved me like my dad. But why would they? These are things over the years I had to process since I've been down here. Why would they? That's my dad. A man is not going to love me like my dad. I began to realize that's when things started to reveal itself to me. Like, we were together for a reason and a season. During my time of really just whoo, he was there for me. I'm grateful to my dad for never walking out on us. I'm grateful for Q for being there for me when I needed him. But it became too much for him, taking care of me. Because in that message, that post that he put, he said, it was always about you. And I saw the anger in that. And he's right. It was all about me. When I was sick, it was all about me. I'm not going to apologize for that. I was sick. But our relationship could not withstand that. It could not withstand. I couldn't pour back into him what he was pouring into me. But we never had a conversation. We never had a conversation. I began to feel the resentment, and then I started feeling resentment. Because like, what the frick is wrong with you? Why are you doing this to me? Why are you being resentful to me? Why are you being nasty to me? Why are you digging into me? Why are you trying to tear me down? I don't think he's a bad person. But because I was going through what I was going through, and he's never dealt with what he needed to deal with, it just, what we had just could not withstand it because there was no communication. Going back to my mom, I realized in that moment, she didn't leave us. She was lost in this religion. And it was an acceptance of, she didn't leave us. She didn't walk out on us. She was lost in this religion. It sucked. It sucked. But I chose in that moment not to cry over spilt milk. You cannot change you cannot go back and change the hands of time. You just have to deal with what you have now. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to understand because it like really over the years, as I began to talk about it, people were like, no, you're hurting. No, you're suffering. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I see what happened. It sucked. I'm not saying I don't have no feelings about this. I'm not saying, but you can't cry over spilled milk. You can't go back and change the hands of time. You have to deal with the hand that you were dealt. But I don't want to say her name, the woman who raised me. I had my friend's mom. I had my aunts. I had people in the neighborhood. Remember, I grew up in a community. There were always people around that were there for me. No, I didn't have my mom. No, I didn't have certain things, but I had so much, and I chose to look at that. I chose to look at the love that I had from other people. I chose this. I've never lived in that victim mode. Now, did it mold my personality? Yeah. Did it put me in a mode of independence? Yeah. But my dad always raised us to be independent. He's always raised us, never let anyone see you sweat. Never let them take advantage of you. Never let a man do for you, but have your own. And so I grew up with that. Is it the best? No. But I chose not to be a victim. Now, going to my kids. My sister has always been a battle between us because through our whole life, I miss mommy, I miss mom. And I didn't have those feelings. And so for that, she felt like I didn't care. You can't miss what you never had. It was just different feelings that I had. And she likes to say, because there's a breakdown in a relationship with my children, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when my children were young. So of course I'm in another world, emotionally and mentally. I was not there for them. Not because I didn't have my mother, but because I was dealing with an illness. Don't put your shit on me. I've had closure with that. And I find that nowadays people want to continue. No, you're hurting. No, you're suffering. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Not saying I don't have any feelings. Yes, it sucks that I had never had a mother, but I had so many other. I was grateful for all the other people in my life. Why is it that I can't be grateful for all these other people and not just keep pining away for a woman that there was never a bond there? Why is it that I can't have those feelings? Why is it that people want to make me feel in a certain way that I don't feel? And I've even sat down and I kept saying, well, do I feel this way? Should I feel this way? I even went to therapy and talked to a therapist about it. It was like, I really don't feel this way. But because of what they're going through, they want to force their feelings on me. Sorry, I don't feel this way. I chose not to be a victim. I chose to look at all other things in life. I chose to look at other mothers. I chose to look at the people that I did have. I chose this. I chose not to sit around and Get out that victim mentality. If you had a bad mother, you had a bad father, if you had a father was not there, it sucks. But if you're now 50 years old, what the fuck, you gonna move back in and have your parents re-raise you? No, you have to find a way to get past this and go on with your life. But as long as you feel like, well, I'm this way because 50 years ago this happened, guess what? You spoke that into existence. I chose to think a different way. I'm sorry that other people didn't choose to think another way. And I know I'm not the only person that feels this way. I don't feel like I'm special or whatever. There are other people that feel like I feel. Like, okay, you got to move on with life. You can't sit there and wallow in it. I chose to move past this. Was it messed up when I was going through my mess with multiple sclerosis? Yes, it broke down my family, but that had nothing to do with my mother. Nothing to do with my mother. It had to do with what was currently going on in my life. Does that need to be repaired now? Yeah. I have one daughter who we've had this conversation. We've talked about this. And she's even said to me, I can see now that I am 26 what was really going on. I can see that because you weren't emotionally there, it wasn't because you didn't care about us. It wasn't because it was because of what you were going through. Now, my other two, they've got to come to this on their own. All my children are adults. I can't make them see a certain way. I can't make them get rid of this anger. I can't make them, you've got to deal with this. You're an adult now. It's time for you to put your big girl panties on, seek therapy to help you get through with it, or try to, go through this, talk it out with somebody. Not necessarily your friends, because your friends know what you know. But it's time for us to start taking responsibility for ourselves. That's what's wrong with the world. We're in this victim mentality. I didn't have my dad, so I'm not going to be a good dad. I didn't have this, so I'm not going to. And the more you say that, you're speaking that into existence. No. When I came down here, I said, affix that mask over my face before assisting that minor. I got to heal myself before I can repair this relationship with my children. Because of what I was going through, yes, I was not emotionally, at some point, I was not emotionally available to them. I was not mentally available to them. But it had nothing to do with my mother. And I wish people would quit fucking telling me what I feel. They don't know me. Work on your shit. Quit worrying about me.